traits, right? A lot of people I feel are sleeping on traits. A lot of the times a fully traded out blue can have a higher value than a regular purple or epic, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. There is even a certain time in the game where you can hold off going from green to blue unless it's a solid replacement already, and you know that you could trade out that blue as well, because a fully traded out green does hold a bit more value than transferring it over to a blue, wherein it will be +3 or it will start at +3 if you can't upgrade it very high just yet. So you might want to wait out on that a little bit. So how does trading actually work now that you know of how high value a traded out blue or green can be, right, at certain parts of the game? So traits, they always start on level 1 and they can go up to level 2 on green gear, level 3 on blue, and then level 4 on purple. And you can kind of see that right here, right? So if I pick a green, you have your level 1 trait and you have your level 2 trait right there, which is your tier 1 and your tier 2, okay? So if I put up a blue here, you can see first level 1, level 2, and level 3 trait, right? And then when you put a purple in there, level 1, 2, 3, and 4, which means that that is one way that purples can scale higher than blue or green here. But the thing is, when you're at a certain stage of the game, it is not really feasible to fully trade out a purple. It's pretty hard, especially if you're going to do purples that are dropped by world bosses. It's pretty tough because everybody wants that weapon. If you have the Lucent to buy it from the market, sure, you can go ahead and add traits to your weapon, right? But if you are distributing world boss equipment from your guild, then you might not be able to get those traits until much farther into the future, because everybody wants that weapon, which means that if everybody has that weapon, everyone is going to want to trait that weapon, and it's going to take a lot of time for you. So your other best bet is maybe save up some Lucent, sell some stuff on the marketplace, and then buy it out at some point in the future so you can get your next trait. That is assuming that you already have the trait that you want on that weapon from the get-go. So when you sign up for drops or distributions for world boss items or equipment from your guild, make sure that that weapon or piece of equipment or armor has the trait that you want, because otherwise you're going to need another same piece of equipment to override that trait, right? So make sure that you pay attention to that, because you don't want to claim an item from your guild, get it, and then find out later on that you've got the wrong trait, right? It gets pretty expensive. So that's the first thing about traits. That's the first thing that you want to know about traits. So to increase the trait level, how do you increase that trait level to level 1, 2, 3, or 4, depending on the gear? In order to increase that trait level, you need the same item. By that I mean like the same item type, as in like gloves for gloves, or crossbow for crossbow, for example, or helmet for helmet, which we have there on the example, of the same grade or 1 grade lower than the item that you're trying to put the trait into. Trying to put a trait from like purple to blue, it's not going to work out. 2 grades lower, it's not going to work out either. The base chance with an item a grade lower is 10%, and the same grade is 100%. And you can kind of see it here. So if I pull up my helmet right here, if I try to put a green trait on there to try to level it up, it's success rate 10%. If I try to put one from a blue item, you can see success rate in the middle here, 100%, right? If you're familiar with fail stacking in BDO, you'll know that this right here, the success rate, you kind of collect fail stacks and you collect blessings. It'll mark it over here, and there's a description of there as well. If you can go ahead and read it if you want. But basically, it's kind of like fail stacking in BDO, where like the more failures you have, the more blessings you're gonna get, and you know, eventually you'll just get what you want, right? So I don't generally recommend this unless it's a trait that you really want on that piece of equipment, because it does get expensive. And I'll show you why later on in the video. I told you about the blessing already, all the fail stacks and all that. One thing I wanted to add as well is that if you wanted to add another trait line, for example, you need the same item. So that's something that you should take into consideration. Remember earlier I told you that you need to be careful with what trait you have on your boss gear already, your war boss gear, because if you want to replace another line of these traits, you're gonna need that same boss gear, and you want to make sure that you don't have to worry about that first line already. right? So that the next boss gear that you try to aim for, whether it's getting it from your guild or getting it via Lucent from the marketplace, that you can add another line right here already, and you don't have to worry about replacing your first line, because that's too costly. Regardless if you're pay to winning the game or not, it's just an expensive endeavor, and that's something that you just don't want to do, because why would you? If there are boss gear in your guild that your guild is trying to give out, and maybe you have dibs on the first one, if you see that the trait is not the trait that you want, then consider giving it away to somebody else in the guild, and just tell your guild like, hey, I can wait for the next one. Let him have it first. So the next thing about traits, you can also extract a trait from any item by using the according grades of flames. You'll see these. I'll show you the items here right now. So these are the flames right here. Precious extraction flame, your quality convert potions, and your rare extraction flame. So when you're extracting these traits, right, you're gonna need these, and it's gonna tell you what you're gonna need in order to extract these traits, right? You need to click this right here, press I for inventory, and then trait extraction, and it should show you some options right there. So if I want to extract this trait right here, and I want to put it into, let's say, like the marketplace, and if you want to find out where they are, you can easily get them from there. They used to be in guild merchant, but they're not there anymore. You're gonna have to go to your sundries merchant, and you can buy them from here. Another place that you can buy them, actually, your battle pass. Yeah, so in battle pass, you can go to Lottie's star shop, and then you can get these right here, right? So the only way that you can get this currency is if you've already maxed out your battle pass, and this is where like the quote-unquote pay to win aspect of the game can come from, or pay to progress, however you want to call it. Is you can use Lucent to max this out, or if you're one of the early players and you want to sell stuff on the market for Lucent, you can get Lucent that way, and you can actually use that Lucent early on to get this to 50, get all these rewards in advance, even as a free-to-play player, and then you can start getting this currency right here, and you can start buying these right here, right? So that's another option that you can actually opt for if you want to buy these flames for extraction. So with that said though, if you go to extraction right now, once you extract something, when you go to the marketplace, this is basically what an extracted piece of weaponry looks like. So it'll say extract and then the weapon's name right there. So you can see here, people are selling it in the marketplace solely for the extraction. So this one right here, trace extraction, melee hit, you have your health regen, you have your melee critical. So you can do that, you can extract it, sell it in the market, or buy it from the market, and you can use it for yourself. So that's one of the ways that you can trade out a weapon. I recommend that when you get to 50, when it comes to traits, into the secret dungeons, right? Look at the ones that you can get here. Like for example, Cave of Destruction for these right here. It's like what I think this, in my opinion right now, this is one of the best bracers that you could possibly get in the dungeons and in the game because of the huge damage bonus that you get. If you want to farm this for more traits for this item, go ahead and do that and try to trade out this item as much as you can. Get them all to max, because basically what you want to do is you want to plan out what you're going to do for dungeons, because your currency, which is your contract tokens, you're limited to how many you get of these every day, right? You want to plan out what dungeons you want to do, and you want to have a static that wants to do those dungeons as well. I think nobody will complain really about spamming this particular dungeon because everybody wants this, for example. So just plan your progression behind that. And a good change that they made recently is they actually put the majority of the top weapons in each dungeon into like one of these like Paula's Dimension chests. So if you get it, then you can select one of these items already. So that's huge. That way parties are not forced to do specific dungeons for their weapon. Now you can go ahead and do dungeons specifically for the other types of equipment that you can get from there, which it's up to you and your party to agree on which ones you want to do. That way you can all agree to run it. Like that bracelet, for example, I know that'll be a huge thing for everybody once this launches in global and NA. So it's just little things like that that you want to take into consideration. A lot of these things are very, very crucial, but not a lot of people are paying attention to them. So I've seen people who full committed on regular epics just to have epics. It is not that simple. This game is not that simple. So before you transfer over to an epic item, I recommend trading out your blues first. They will last you for a very long time, especially with how the milestone setup in this game is, where all the content, even though it exists already, it's very staggered. It's going to take a while for it to come out. A good example for maybe an epic that you would go for example, is your weapon from the dungeons, because you can trade those out easily. Another option would be, for example, is the boss epics that are just too good. For example, a boss epic that I would personally go for and switch out of the existing blues, even if I do have traded out blues, is probably the Grand Generals and Beaten Armor, which is huge for tanks. So it's like certain ones like this that I would give up traded out blue for, and that's what I would replace it with, right? And if you're asking me why I have a regular epic top for myself, after saying that, I'll be honest with you, I did it because it looks good. And if you're wondering where to get the rest of the other traits, you can go ahead and, just click on it, how to acquire, and it'll show you all the places that you could possibly get it from, like, Exploration, Death's Abyss, Temple of Slaughter, all these dungeons. You get them from sundries, merchants, and all that. So just to sum it all up, don't assume that a higher tier or higher rarity gear is better just because it's purple versus blue. There are a lot of situations where a fully traded out blue will 100% be better than an epic. And just like, for example, for tanks, I might not trade this out because I would want to get the Unbeaten Generals like helmet that you get from like one of the world bosses from Excavator, right? So this one right here, I know that I'm gonna get this piece of equipment, and I know for a fact that the next piece of equipment that drops for that set drops from Talus, the glove. You're gonna get the glove right there. So if I know that I'm gonna aim for those two, helmet and glove, then I'm not gonna trade out a headgear, right? I'm not gonna trade out a glove right off the bat, right? Because like I want to replace these in order to get that set bonus. In the meantime, I will want to trade out this, everything else in here, because those will have a much higher value. And personally, the other stuff in here that's going to be part of that set to get that 4-piece bonus are not going to be out for a while. So that's one of the reasons why I would rather stick to a fully traded out blues. Hopefully that helps.